Kidnapped Sheb Woolly. Caitlyn was a butterfly who loved beautiful things. She wore glasses so that she could see all of the beautiful things the world had to offer. For Caitlyn, some of the most beautiful things in the whole world were her friends. One of her best friends was a caterpillar named Sheb. Sheb was a very woolly caterpillar. Sheb was so woolly you could not see his feet. Sheb was so woolly you could not see his face. Sometimes Caitlyn would be talking to Sheb, and halfway through the conversation, she would find she was talking to the wrong end. As you may know, caterpillars are changed into butterflies by the work of fairies. Sheb could hardly wait to become a butterfly. "Will I be able to fly anywhere I want?" he asked Caitlyn. "Anywhere you like, Sheb," agreed Caitlyn. It was getting late in the season, and Sheb's fairy went to where he was usually sleeping. The fairy was ready to transform Sheb into a beautiful butterfly. But when she arrived, she discovered that Sheb was not there. The fairy went to Fiona, the fairy princess who was in charge of changing caterpillars into butterflies, and Fiona went to see her friend Caitlyn. Caitlyn decided that something terrible must have happened to Sheb. He's been waiting so long to be a butterfly. He would never have done anything to miss it. He must have been kidnapped. Fiona was less worried. He might have wandered off somewhere and gotten lost. Let's see if we can find him. Caitlyn gathered her butterfly and caterpillar friends. They spread out, the butterflies searching high, the caterpillars searching low. There was no sign of Sheb anywhere. Caitlyn was getting more and more worried. Even Fiona was starting to think something was wrong. Then one of Caitlyn's friends motioned her to a house and pointed through the window. Caitlyn got very excited. She quickly flew to Fiona. "He's in J. Fred's house. I saw him through the window," exclaimed Caitlyn. "He's trapped in this awful glass jar with a foil lid. We'll never be able to get him out." "Well," said Fiona, "I know a group of fairies who can help and who would love to get Sheb out. This is just the sort of thing they've been waiting for." Fiona closed her eyes and concentrated. A few minutes later, a group of fairies appeared. The fairies were dressed in black from head to foot, with black scarves across their faces. They bowed to Fiona and stood at attention. "Your Highness," said their leader, "the Fairy Ninja Squad is at your service." Caitlyn was impressed. "I never knew there were fairy ninjas," she told Fiona. Fiona rolled her eyes. "Really, they're not. They saw this martial arts movie and... never mind. They're a little strange, but they are very good at what they do." Fiona filled them in on the situation with Sheb. The Fairy Ninja Squad carefully made its way inside J. Fred's house. Silently, they surrounded the glass jar that was Sheb's prison. On their leader's signal, each one pushed and pushed until they forced the foil lid off. Carefully, the Fairy Ninja Squad hoisted Sheb out of his jar, still asleep. They put him on their shoulders and carried Sheb out. Caitlyn and Fiona applauded as the squad came to a halt in front of them, but the applause woke Sheb. Sheb looked at Caitlyn. "Caitlyn, what are you doing in my jar?" He looked down at the Fairy Ninja Squad, still holding him up. "What are you guys doing with my jar? What happened?" "We rescued you, Sheb," said Caitlyn brightly. "You are free." "Free? I don't want to be free," cried Sheb. "I don't want to be outside. I don't want to be scared all the time." "What happened, Sheb?" Caitlyn asked gently. "I was up in a really tall tree," said Sheb, "because leaves always taste better near the top. I suddenly thought, hey, I could grab a bunch of leaves and they would be just like wings and I could fly to the ground. It would be almost as good as being a butterfly. So I grabbed some leaves and I jumped." it didn't go very well. I was spinning and trying to flap, and I was slamming into branches, and I couldn't see. Suddenly, the ground was there, and I hit it. It hurt. I guess if I wasn't so woolly, it would have been really bad. So later, when I started to climb the tree again, I got scared. What if I fell? So I just ate leaves on the ground. Later, when it got dark, I started to get sleepy. I got scared again. What if I got turned into a butterfly? What if I am too woolly to fly? What if all I can do is crash? That's when I ran away so my fairy couldn't find me. The next thing I knew, I got picked up and put in a glass jar. But somebody put leaves in to eat, and it was warm and comfortable. I could sleep there because nobody would ever find me. Sheb looked at Caitlyn and Fiona. But you did find me. So what do you want? Asked Caitlyn. Sheb thought for a moment, then said, I want to go back to my nice warm jar and sleep. I don't want to turn into a butterfly. I don't want to worry about flying up high and then crashing. I just want to be a caterpillar. Caitlyn nodded at Fiona, who told the fairy ninja squad, put him back. The squad bowed to Fiona, hoisted Sheb on their shoulders, and carried him back into J. Fred's house and put him in his jar. By the time they had the foil cover back on, Sheb was sound asleep. Sheb slept all day, curled up at the bottom of the jar. Every now and then he would nibble on some of the leaves that J. Fred put in for him. He was happy. But J. Fred and his wife were worried. I don't think it was a good idea to bring him inside, said J. Fred. He just sleeps all the time. I agree, said Mrs. J. Fred. It's getting warm again outside. Why don't we put him someplace nice where he can be happy and turn into a butterfly? So, on a lovely warm evening, J. Fred gently carried Sheb outside and put him under a bush with plenty of green leaves. Sheb never woke up. He dreamed that he was being wrapped in a silken blanket that kept him cozy and safe. Sheb yawned and stretched. He felt as though he had been asleep for weeks. He stretched again and opened his eyes. All he could see was fuzz. He pushed and pushed until he got through whatever was covering him. The first thing he saw was a fairy watching him and smiling. Sheb smiled back. Hi, said the fairy. My name is Gladys. I'm a fairy. Sheb looked around. It was getting dark, but he could see he was not in his jar. Hi, said Sheb. My name is Sheb. I'm a woolly caterpillar. Well, funny thing about that, said Gladys. Actually, you're not. You're kind of a woolly butterfly. Sheb looked behind him. He had wings, woolly wings. Sheb flapped them a little and then grabbed the ground as he started to take off. No, wailed Sheb. I'm scared to fly. I don't want to be a butterfly. Gladys gave him a hug. It will be okay, Sheb. I am here to help. Gladys sprinkled some fairy dust on herself, and she started to glow. There. Otherwise, it will be too dark to see me. We will do our first flight together. It will be fine. Sheb was not convinced this was a good idea. Gladys finally persuaded him to just practice flapping his wings. By that time, it was quite dark. All Sheb could see was Gladys glowing in front of him. Sheb started flapping. That looks good, Sheb. Keep doing that, Gladys encouraged him. I don't want to take off, worried Sheb. You are doing fine, cheered Gladys. You are flying. Sheb looked down. He couldn't see anything because it was so dark. I'm not scared. I'm going to be okay. Each day, Sheb would rest. Then each night, after it was too dark to see much, he would take off and follow Gladys as she glowed in the darkness. One night, Gladys told Sheb, I have to go. I have other caterpillars who need me." Sheb burst into tears. "But then I'll be all alone. No one will be there to guide me at night." "Oh, Sheb, you will never be alone. You will always have the moon and the stars above you." Gladys gave Sheb a final hug, and they flew off in different directions. So Sheb grew up and learned to fly, but he only flew at night, so he never knew how high he flew. His relatives, the other woolly caterpillars, also became woolly butterflies and flew at night. Instead of calling them woolly butterflies, they are called moths. As his friend Caitlyn had promised him, Sheb was able to fly wherever he wanted. And as day meets night and night meets day, Sheb and Caitlyn meet and fly together. The end.